We're live on Facebook.
Okay, we are back from our lunch break, and we are a few minutes late, and that's because of me and my internet connection, but we are back on. Since we just to let everybody know, this is being live streamed on Facebook and YouTube. For anyone in the public watching who would prefer to watch via a different platform than they are currently using, please visit our social media at Redistricting Michigan to find the link for either viewing on YouTube or Facebook viewing. Our live stream today includes closed captioning. You might already see that we have ALS interpretation available for this meeting. If you are a member of the public watching who would like easier viewing options for the ALS interpreter on your screen, please email us at redistricting@michigan.gov and we will provide you with additional viewing options. Similarly, members of the public who are limited English speaking and would like to access translation services during the webinar can email us at redistricting@michigan.gov. for details on how to access language translation services for this meeting. Translation services are available for both Spanish and Arabic. Please email us and we will provide you with a unique link and call-in information. For purposes of public watching and public record, I will turn to the Department of State staff to take note of the commissioners present. Sally?
Hello, everyone. Commissioners, please unmute yourself and say present when I call your name. Anthony Eade.
Present.
Brittany Kellum.
Present.
Cynthia Orton.
Present.
Douglas Clark.
Present.
Dustin Witches.
Present.
Aaron Wagner.
Present.
Ed Decker.
Present.
Janice Follett.
Present.
Juanita Curry.
Present.
MC Rothorn.
Present.
Rhonda Lang.
Present.
Richard Weiss.
Present.
Steve Lett.
Present.
All commissioners are present.
You can see the afternoon session agenda on the slide. We have several initial discussions to have and decisions to make. So we're at commission decision point structure. Sally, are you going to assist us here or are we on our own?
Mike and I are happy to assist you all in this conversation, or you can do it yourself. Just let us know. We're also happy to answer questions from the previous conversation this morning, if that would be helpful. Up to you, Acting Chair.
Well, I guess I would open it up for discussion. I'm sure that several of the commission members have some ideas on what the structure might look like. And you gave us some page numbers to look at before we went to lunch. If you could remind us of those now, I would appreciate it.
I think they're on the slide. Oh, sorry.
Go for it, Brittany. You were going where I was going. So a couple of pages that might be helpful for you all in this conversation, which really, the question before you is, how do you want to structure yourselves moving forward? In your orientation materials on pages 39 through 40, there is some summary notes of the California Redistricting Commission report, and then the Commissioner's Guide to Redistricting in Michigan, which is also included in those orientation materials on pages 19 to 20, has some options for there as well.
I might have a question that may impact this. I'm wondering if I can, this might be part of the discussion. Is that okay, Steve? Should I just ask the question from?
Yes.
So the question, I suppose, is committee structure. If we decide, and I'm thinking about what I think California called it divide and conquer, and they said they had 2 commissioners go out at a time. The question is sort of like relating to the Open Meetings Act, and if we, I guess the question in my mind is that we might want to consider committees like a media or communications or legal structure. I think some of those are the committees that California had, or even a community. Yeah, there's some things that don't make sense. Like if we're gonna, but I guess I'm asking, do we need to have, if we're gonna have committees, do we need to have chairs of committees, for example? If that's gonna be a formal structure, do we? Yeah, that's. And are we complying with the Open Meetings Act if we have fewer than 7? If we have a committee with 3 commissioners, do we need to comply with the Open Meetings Act, or is it just good practice to just do that, period?
Well, I guess I'll give my kind of opinion. Number one, if you have fewer than 7 commissioners at a meeting, you cannot make a decision as it pertains to our final drawing, etc., the mapping. You have to have a quorum to make those types of decisions. The committees, I think, would be good to have. I don't think we want, at least I don't think it would be beneficial to have a committee of the whole, 13 people, trying to do everything. It's going to be too much work for all of us to do and still get done. We're going to have a hard enough time getting done by the 45 days before November 1st as it is. So I think the discussion, at least I would think the discussion would be what types of committees do we see that we want to have? And, we don't need to reinvent the wheel necessarily, but we certainly can pick and choose the ones that others have used and have advised us of. I think that, establish the committee, ask if those that are interested in whatever particular committee are there, and then that committee would normally choose its own chair or whoever is going to lead it. But I'm certainly open to anything else. The other thing we have to consider, since I'm acting temporary, whatever you want to call me, the California, as I understood them, used a rotating committee or a rotating chair in which the chair and vice chair, the chair did one meeting like I'm doing, and then the next meeting would be done by the vice chair. My thoughts, such as they are, is I think, number one, I think that's a good idea. We get more people involved in the chairmanship, and you don't have to listen to me all the time, which I'm sure would be beneficial for everybody. And the other thing that it really does, at some point, people are going to be leading these community discussions somehow, either like we're doing right now, or hopefully in person. That would be my preference, but we may never get to that point. I have found in settings in which they rotated the chairs that some people are very good at chairing public meetings. Some people just don't have the taste for it, don't want to do it. They're a little reticent about it. And you can, I think we will find that we will have some indication of the people signing up who want to talk, present to us that some of the other people that are in the community and know we may be able to reach out to will tell us, this is going to be a contentious meeting or this isn't going to be. And so we may want to say, well, we may want Anthony to chair that meeting because he's good with chairing contentious public meetings. So those are kind of my thoughts. And I see Mike raising his hand. Mike.
Thank you. I appreciate all the conversation. I just want to respond to part of MC's question regarding Open Meetings Act. So Steve is absolutely correct that, this is a commission of 13, so 7 is quorum. As Steve noted, this commission cannot make any decisions without having quorum. To be clear, this commission can not only not make decisions without quorum, it can't deliberate without quorum. It can't discuss without quorum because some of this is actually overlapping with the Open Meetings Act. But of course, there's also that language from the Constitution that says you cannot discuss the redistricting and the work of the commission except in either a publicly noticed meeting of the commission, and it's only a meeting of the commission if it has quorum. And that's just for discussion, remember, or in writing. That's the subsection, that's the exception A, or exception B would be some other publicly noticed public meeting. So the kind of the finer point there, what Steve was saying, which is correct about decisions, but it goes beyond that to deliberation or even discussion. On top of that, you raise a different question, MC, about committees. So if this commission creates committees, which again, as an aside, makes a lot of sense. That's why most public bodies do something like that, most organizations in general. Once this public body creates a committee or multiple committees, each of them becomes its own public body, however large you make it. So if you make a committee, and maybe the legal committee is, and I'm just making this up, of course, but let's say you had a committee that was legal and that had 3 people on it. If 3 people are on that committee, quorum is 2. Maybe you have a different committee that's communications, and I'm obviously just making this up. If the communications committee was 7, then quorum would be 4. And again, you can do whatever the math is. You can make it 4, you can do 5, whatever it is, and then you would adjust from there. So any one of those committees would in turn have to comply with the Open Meetings Act, which again, isn't a super scary thing, but just know that you are actually creating additional public bodies that are subject to the Open Meetings Act. And in turn, the staff of this commission, once you have staff, and and also, Sally and Sarah and I and the staff of the Department of State, we remain working, of course, for the secretary as the non-voting secretary of the commission. So, whatever else you do to hire other people, we're going to be there to act at your direction. And if you tell us you have 3 committees or 4 committees or whatever number of committees, we'll make sure that we're doing everything we can to fully comply with the requirements and needs of those committees and the Open Meetings Act. Hope that's helpful.
Okay, that brings it. Go ahead, Doug.
I wanted to make a comment based on what you said about the chair. So I have a different view of that, and I don't personally like the way California did it, where they rotated it, because I think what you lose is you lose continuity, and then you potentially lose productivity because everybody's starting out new all the time, and it's a learning curve for them. So I think we're better off as an organization to have a permanent chair and a permanent vice. And then if we have to replace them at some point in time, we replace, maybe halfway through or whatever. If we decide to do that, we could do that. But I see that as a better alternative personally than rotating it every meeting. I just thought I'd make that comment.
Thanks. Certainly that appears to be the 2 most popular methods to do it. Mike, I have a question wherever you went. There you are.
Brittany was trying to get in. Steve, Brittany was trying to get in. She's been raising her hand for a while.
Okay.
I don't know how to, I tried to not be obnoxious. I was trying to put it up to the camera.
Well, mute yourself and say, hey.
Well, that's not good procedure, but
it's effective.
And then the hand raising feature is not activated because I know how to do that. So I was just gonna do that, but I couldn't find it. So I had some thoughts. It might have been like too long now, but I had some thoughts about what MC said. And I think Mike semi covered it in terms of, I think we need to kind of just determine like what roles we want to fulfill, at least from my experience. And then in that way, we can determine what a committee, if we need a committee, that sort of thing. Like, what do we think, given the information that we've been presented with thus far, what would be necessary, depending on our comfortability, knowledge, and, you know, the things that we've been exposed to, what's the need there? And then thinking about our style of working together. Doug did kind of enjoy what was presented by California, just in terms of their collaborative approach and how they took it seriously, that the decisions were to be made by the commission, not necessarily like we're lording over anyone, but really taking seriously the autonomy that we have in hiring folks and relying on our ability and trusting in ourselves to make the decision. I personally think that if we give that onus to the folks out of doubt that we're going to do something wrong or be sued, then we're not really doing the justice that we were chosen to do, if that makes sense. The other thing that I was thinking about, I don't know, I'm kind of on the fence about whether it needs to be, oh, that's what I was going to say. I'm sorry. I think the job of the chair and the vice chair is not necessarily leadership of the commission, but it's really to facilitate the flow of the meeting. So in that way, I don't think it's going to interfere with a new style because we're all following Robert's rules. Like, it's not like the chair and vice chair are the decision makers, as far as I'm aware. They're helping guiding the process, literally in terms of the structure of the meeting. It's not that they have any more insight or any more whatever. Like, I don't know. I feel like we all need to be empowered by that consideration.
And I thought that continuity was the more important thing, to keep the same person doing it. It just runs smoother, in my opinion, from what I've seen in the past.
I would have to agree with you, Doug.
I wonder if there could be kind of a compromise between the two, where we could agree to have, agree on who the chair and vice chair would be through the first section, the first timeline, because we will do a more discovery at the beginning, and then, there's different phases, it seems like, according to our plan. So then we could agree that when the first phase is over, then we would revisit and possibly choose new people or stay if we are happy with that.
Cynthia, I think that works. And we also, maybe folks don't even want to be vice chair. We might not have enough people to rotate. So I think that's another important thing.
Yeah, right. But no, I agree with what Cynthia said. It's, break it up into sections or relative to the timeline, and then revisit it after so many months. And we may end up keeping the same people. We may not, if things are running smooth, that's great.
Any other thoughts from anybody?
I think that both of those options, as far as chairing, they each present a set of pros and cons, and I think we'll just have to, make a decision on it. But I also think that we should think about how we want to kind of, set a broader structure in order to make sure we're all doing, what we're supposed to do and holding each other accountable. So I don't know if we want to do that by enacting like maybe a set of bylaws or something like that. If we make committees or project groups or something of the sort, we would then have to decide what that committee has, authority to do versus what they have to bring to the 13 of us for us to decide as a whole. Then we'd have to decide on how reporting would look and stuff like that. So I think all of these points are points that we should consider.
Any other thoughts from anybody?
Well, I agree with Cynthia. I like what she said. about starting off with what we have and then go on after maybe 6 months or half time. Then if we want to revisit that, we can revisit whoever the chair and the vice chair is. That would be great with me.
Is anybody willing to make a motion at this time as to the structure of the chair and vice chair moving forward?
I
wanna-
would like to make a motion that we take Cynthia's approach, where we have a semi-permanent or permanent chair and vice chair for 6-month period of time and then revisit it.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion by Doug, seconded by Dustin, that the chair and vice chair be elected for a period of 6 months. At the end of that time, we would revisit the chair, vice chair, and see how we wanted to proceed.
Can
So
I amend it? I want to
Pardon?
suggest an amendment.
you want to make an amendment?
Yeah, just instead of 6 months, I'm suggesting that it be 3 months, because I think we're in September, October, November, December. I like the idea of just trying to say until the end of the year. So I'm suggesting that I guess I would amend a friendly amendment is to until December 31st, 2020.
I agree with that, because in January is when we kind of start the public hearings according to our schedule.
Correct.
So it's kind of a new phase.
So MC, you said December 31?
Yes.
MC, are you saying every 3 months or just for the first time to revisit it?
The motion, as you stated it, I heard was a semi-permanent or permanent until for 6 months. And so I'm just saying same motion until December 31st.
Okay, fine. I just want to clarify that.
And acting chair, I just wanted to,
Oh, hold on. Sally?
sorry, Doug. I just wanted to quickly jump in here on just a Robert's Rules of Order point, that once you make the motion and then, and you know, this amendment as well, that you all can discuss then that specific motion and have a discussion about that before moving to a vote. You don't have to immediately move to a vote. So I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that.
Got it. And I was. Okay, so we have a motion to elect at least semi-permanent chair and vice chair, which has been amended that it would run from now until December 31st of 2020. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Yes, Anthony.
Personally, I don't think I'm in favor of this motion. I think this is a tough choice to make, but I think we should decide, either choice A or choice B, because I'm just not sure how the optics of, having a semi-permanent structure and then changing to a different structure, 3 months or 6 months into this process. I don't know how the optics of that's going to look. So I think my opinion is, even though it's a tough decision, I think we should make a decision between the two options.
I'm just going to twinkle on that. Meaning I agree.
So as I understand it, you're speaking against having a chair for a specific period of time and revisiting it. You want someone now for the duration.
Not necessarily for the duration. I think we can do it either way. I think we can either do the duration or the rotating, but I don't think we should take a half measure and do a compromise between the two. I think we should pick one or the other.
Okay. Further comment on the amendment, which is to have a chair and vice chair until December 31st and revisit it at that time. Any other comment?
That was my thought too. I mean, Anthony makes a good point. If we're constantly potentially changing who is leading our group of 13, that might put a sour taste in people's mouths of the public. So my original second would stand, where either 6 months to a permanent would be the better option for all of us, in my opinion.
Okay. Hold on, Anthony. Any others before I go back to Anthony?
I agree with that
You agree?
for the 6 month.
Yeah, I agree with what Dustin said as
Oh,
well.
we're only talking about the 3 months right now. We'll get to the 6 months.
Okay.
I understand what you're saying, though.
Okay.
Anthony.
Two thoughts. My first thought kind of harps back onto what Brittany said a little while ago. I don't know if we should look at this as whoever's the chair as leading us. We're all leaders here. Just by applying for this committee, that means we all at least were in a little bit of the know-how of what's going on, in the political sphere of our state. And I think all 13 of us are leaders. And inherently, the person who has the chair or the vice chair position doesn't necessarily have any more power as any of the other 13 of us. So instead of looking at it as, someone leading us, I would more so look at it as, someone who is guiding the meetings to run smoothly and move forward. My second thought is, Steve, if you would, just for a point of clarification, restate the motion that's on the table so that everybody could hear it, and just so there's clarity on exactly what this motion that got the second is.
Sure. Right now, what is on the table is the amended motion, which says that the chair and the vice chair would serve for a period ending on December 31st, 2020. That's what's on the table. If that passes or fails, if it passes, we're all done. If it fails, then we would go to the election of the motion to elect a vice chair and chair for a period of 6 months. Any further comments on the amended motion? And I think, Doug, you kind of had one.
No, I was just going to support what Anthony said about facilitating and being the leader of the group. I think that's the correct approach, is to be the facilitator as far as the chairman goes.
And I agree with that as well. Like it's the chairperson is supposed to be the one that facilitates leaders, but my biggest concern is how the public will see that if we're constantly changing who is leading our meetings and facilitating our meetings. That's my biggest concern.
Okay, MC.
Well, that's exactly why the California one rotated, because they perceived it so positively. And that's why I think I'm going back to that. Like, I actually think that we are modeling good collaborative government by rotating a chair and not having a single person. That is what the status quo, I'll say, does, right? And it's to do it differently is to actually be perceived by the public as they did it differently, and it was perceived as one of the most positive things they did. There's no partisanship, and they were. I think if we have static leadership or just a facilitator, right? Because we're all leaders. I agree with that part. I think the idea is that we also lose education potential, that the potential to educate ourselves, the potential for us as commissioners to also go out to the public that we know and to potentially learn these things. I think we could do something really, I think we could model, California has modeled it. And I feel like that's a good, positively perceived model. I would, yeah.
Okay. So there's a speech, I don't know if it's speech for, against, or wherever it is, but I think we've heard everybody's kind of position. Are we ready to vote? Okay, we're voting on the amendment, which is to elect a chair and a vice chair for a period ending December 31st, 2020. And we'll do a roll call. Sally? Roll call, please.
Yes, absolutely. Acting Chair, will you restate the motion so that people can vote either for or against?
Sure. The motion before us is the amended motion, and it says that the chair and the vice chair will be elected for a period ending December 31st, 2020. If you are in favor of this motion, you will vote yes, and if you are not in favor, you will vote no. And if Sally would call the roll, we would appreciate it.
Thank you. I will read in reverse alphabetical order this time.
Okay.
So Steve Lett,
Yes.
Richard Weiss,
No.
Rhonda Lang,
Yes.
MC Rothorn,
No.
Juanita Curry,
No.
Janice Villette,
No.
James Decker, sorry, Ed Decker,
Yes.
Aaron Wagner,
Yes.
Dustin Witchess,
No.
Doug Clark,
Yes.
Cynthia Orton,
Yes.
Brittany Kellum,
No.
Anthony Eve,
No.
The amendment fails. We are now at the original motion, which is essentially the same. I will restate it. However, there is an option or an opportunity for discussion on the original motion, which is to have a chair and vice chair elected for a period of 6 months, ending whatever 6 months is from the day. Is there any further discussion? Anthony?
Thank you, Steve. So I kind of stated this before, but again, I feel like we should choose between either having a permanent chair for the duration of our time here or having the 2 rotating chairs. This motion is on the table right now. However, we can table it in favor for a different motion after we have further discussion, if we so choose. I don't really have an opinion yet on if we should do the permanent versus the rotating. I have to think about that for a minute, but I think we should do one or the other, not a 3-month thing, a 6-month thing. I think we just need to choose one.
All right.
Well, wouldn't the 6-month thing, could that potentially be rotating? I mean,
That's what I was.
if you have a 6-month position, it could either stay the same or it could potentially switch. I mean, that would be the rotation.
Are you proposing that as an amendment?
No, sir. I'm just discussion.
Rhonda and then Richard.
Just for discussion purposes, when we're talking about rotating, so what would be the guidelines of rotating? Rotating how often? I guess that's where I'm getting lost in it, is we've turned down the 3 months. There's 6 months on the table. Some are saying, let's do a rotating. So what would the guidelines be for rotating?
I think that would depend on, so I think 3 months was too quick to do the work, in my opinion. I think 6 months gives someone a little longer, as we've talked about, Doug raised, for consistency purposes and being able to establish some sort of footing. So I think there's a likelihood, if we do decide the more communal approach or a collective, where someone might want to take facilitation leadership, but I don't think we know enough information to make that decision. I think I go back to my point, if there is someone that's interested in being vice chair and chair, then we will have credence to talk about rotating. If we vote on rotating, but no one wants to take on that facilitation responsibility, then this is kind of a moot point, but that's just my perspective.
So before we, oh, I'm sorry.
Richard, I'll come back to you, Rhonda. Richard?
Well, I was just reading on page 39 here. It says the commission decided on a shared governance model with rotating chairs and vice chair. The commissioner who served as vice chair for the previous meeting became the chair for the next session of business meetings. The executive director drew up a rotation to ensure that no time would the chair or vice chair be from the same party. I guess I'm thinking, why not have 2 vice chairs and a chair and then do this procedure? And each meeting you would rotate, and then this is kind of what California did. And it sounded like it worked.
I thought California rotated among everyone.
I got the impression it was just 2 vice chairs and a chair, but that could be true. I'm not sure.
I think
I
they
think it was
rotated
everyone.
everyone, yeah.
They said that not everyone wanted to participate at first, but eventually everyone took a turn.
That would make sense too, I guess, you know.
But that's where we lose the continuity.
But that's not how the people evaluated that, Doug. I think that's your opinion, but
Yes.
the people evaluated it differently.
Correct. Yeah, I think their comment yesterday was that the people liked that. Now, I don't know how they got that feedback. But
Well, you got to remember, it's California too.
yeah, I know. It's a different world out there. I'm out there a lot. It's a different world.
I think we need to do what's best for our jobs and our group and not be worried about public opinion. In terms of,
I agree with you, Brittany.
Yeah, that's true too. I agree with you.
Rhonda.
Okay, so is it possible before we vote on it, whether it's going to be rotating or permanent, to see who would be interested in being a chairperson and vice chair? So that way we know how many people wouldn't mind doing it or how many people would be uncomfortable doing it and don't want to do it. And that might help us guide our decision a little bit too. Is it possible?
Are you making that as a motion, or you just want to take a straw poll to see what the will of feeling of the group is?
I want to see what the feeling of the group is. So just a straw poll, if we can, of who would be interested in being a vice chair and a chair, and that might help us make our decision.
Okay, if you would be in favor of finding that out, raise your hand. That appears to be most everybody. Okay, so then we're at the point, I guess, that we would be asking for volunteers as chairperson. Who wants to do that? The usual suspects?
I'm bowing
I would
out.
like to. Oh,
I'll jump in real quick and say that no matter which way we go, right now I'm thinking I'd actually be very comfortable with Steve being the chairperson for the duration of our time together. But if we do pass the rotating chair structure, then I would be interested in taking part in that.
I would want to agree with that. I think Steve would make a fantastic chair for now. And if it comes to vice chairs, if we have 2 of them, then potentially I could put my name forward, or whomever wants to put their name forward. But he's been doing a great job so far. I know it's only a day and a half, but it's been working. So
It can only go downhill.
well, let's not reinvent the wheel.
I would
Don't fix what's
agree.
broke.
Steve's been doing a good job. I think we should consider him.
so I would like to say that I think I represent maybe a few of us here. I don't feel comfortable right now. You know, if we were to rotate, I wouldn't want to take a turn right now, but eventually after I get more comfortable with it, then I think I might want to. But I think Steve's doing a great job too.
Well, I like chairing meetings. I've done a lot of them in my career. I would certainly take it as an honor if that's what everybody chose to do. So I would put my name in the hat. I would also note for everybody that regardless of what we decide here, it doesn't mean that sometime down the road before 6 months or 3 months or whatever, we can't revisit it. I mean, something may happen. Hell, I might die. I'm old. And
don't say that.
Well, it's true. You might have to revisit it. So nothing's cast in stone here. And unless we adopt bylaws that say, well, you can't make a change, which I don't think would be a good idea, but so that's where it is. Cynthia doesn't want to do it now, but she wants to be considered later. That's fine. That's great. I'll throw my name in the hat, and Dustin and Anthony are in.
I just saw something in the chat. Janice had her hand up for a while.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I also feel like, Cynthia, it's too early for me to make a decision on if this is something I'd be comfortable to do. So I am not ready at this point to put my name in.
Okay. All right.
And
Anybody else? Juanita.
you all see me. I feel the same way. I'm not comfortable right now. I'd like to, with whoever we choose, to choose a vice president, along with you, Steve. You're doing a fine job. And perhaps if you guys want a vice president to be chosen, somebody that you all could be comfortable with today, along with, if anything, like Steve said, you never know what might happen. You all can do that, but I'm not interested right now. I'm just really trying to get a feel of how this is operating and what's going on and how much, I'm just getting a feel of it. And I think that if we do wait a little while before everybody will get to know each other's, how everything is, and people will be comfortable with it.
Well, Juanita, when you get that feel of what we're doing and how we're doing it, would you let everybody else know?
Well,
but we're all in the same boat.
I know. But you're doing a good job.
MC, and then what? And then Brittany.
I guess I want to make sure that we realize that even though we're trying to do this, what's best, maybe what's efficient, all the eyes are on us. And it does feel to me like the more that we step into this discomfort, the more that we challenge ourselves to sort of accept that we will be doing things that are uncomfortable. What we might be doing when we do that, when each of us does that, we might be empowering people. We might be actually helping each other. And it's, again, because we are exactly what you just said, Juanita, right? The idea that we don't know until we know. And what I'm saying is it's going to be uncomfortable. It has been shown to be an effective way of communicating and building trust. Like, and one of the things that we're supposed to do as a commission is build trust back into these institution. And it feels to me like that's why it feels crucial to be a structure, right? And to make this decision and to consider more deeply rotating, because it feels like it could build trust and it could exactly be what we need. Even though I'm certainly not throwing my hat in the ring. I don't want to do it. But it feels to me like it's important to recognize the value that it did show.
Brittany.
So I am in agreement with MC. I will also say that I am noticing an apprehension in our group that makes me feel like whoever is chair, and I don't want to speak for anyone because I think, we're assertive to a certain extent, but I don't want it to be that we are being blindly led or looking to the chair to make decisions that we need to be considering as a group. So I don't know if I have the answer that it's going to be collaborative rotating or a full term. But I think whatever that choice is, if we have someone that's stable, it would behoove us to fully step into our power and know that it is our individual responsibility to contribute to the whole. With that said, I would put my hat in for the vice chair because I do think there needs to be a balance, and I'm willing to facilitate meetings, but I know that we're talking about chair right now. So that's my full thought on that.
Well, no, we're talking about both.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yes, I would be willing to be vice chair if that's a consideration that we're making. Yes.
Any other comments?
Yeah,
Dustin, yes.
So I think we're all looking at this in a way that the chair is some form of leadership, where all 13 of us have the same voice, the same vote, so to speak, with everything that we do. It's just a facilitator that really makes sure that we stay on track to get our jobs done. It's not really it's not like we're voting in an executive here to overrule us in decisions. This is just an individual that's going to make sure that we follow the rules of order and that we stay on track. Whether that's one person or two, or heck, even all 13 of us, it doesn't really much matter. It's just to make sure that we stay on track in our meetings to make sure that we get our jobs done. So I would say that we would just need one person that can, make sure that we stay on track, keep all of our motions in line and all of our questions in line, and vote accordingly on certain things. It doesn't really matter who it is, but that's just my opinion. It's not a position of power at all.
Okay, Doug.
Yeah, I agree 100% with what Dustin said. And the simpler we keep it, I think the better off we're going to be as we move forward.
We have, I think we've heard everybody's opinion. If we have,
Erin had her hand up.
Are you seeing this? Are you seeing
the there, Erin?
I was just going to say, I think we've already seen who is not as reticent or anxious about chairing a meeting. There were 4 of you that had put your names forward to begin with. And I think the way I understood it through California and Arizona, they seem to have their public meetings almost one on top of another in the beginning of their whole concept of coming together. And if that's something we can agree on, I think the 4 of you have already put your names forward as, being considered as chairs and vice chairs. And then those of us that may be a little anxious or not want to put our hats in the ring can see how you all do in facilitating those meetings and go from there. I don't think it has to be a let's vote on this right now thing. I think we can decide who's going to be acting chair and vice chairs or whatever, do the names you already threw into the hat, and the rest of us can deliberate in the future.
Let me suggest this, and I am willing to abide by your direction to me. I, as a mediator, and I mediate lots of cases, I operate on a rule of 3. And once I've heard the same comment 3 times, I've got it. I know what we're thinking, and I'm hearing repeated comments on the same topic. So I think we're ready. I think we're ready to move forward unless somebody wants to continue. There's 2 ways that we can do that. The motion that is in front of us is to have a chair and a vice chair for 6 months. That's the motion that is before us. We have a number of names put forth for chair, Anthony, Dustin, and myself. We have 1 for vice chair, Brittany. So I would propose that we would vote, because the suggestion was who wants to do it, before we vote on having a chair and a vice chair for a period of 6 months. So that's where we're at. Unless I hear something different, I believe that we're ready to vote. You can vote it up or down and we continue.
I just want to caution that the optics of the parties of the, I don't know which parties are that you all affiliate with, but it's the optics. It's the way that it will look when we have the chair or vice chair for 6 months, and whether, right? I guess what I'm saying is, like, I don't know how you all identify, right? Which party you're identified with publicly. But it seems to me, because I don't know, like, if you don't know, what I'm saying is that we may actually accidentally have 2 Democrats, for example, or 2 Republicans, and that may look really bad. And what I'm saying is that we're making a choice here that we have to really consider how it looks. Please.
Well, we're not to that point yet, and we will have an opportunity, or you will have an opportunity to decide that. Right now, we're deciding on how long it's going to be, and it's going to be a chair and a vice chair for 6 months.
To add in a little bit more discussion before we vote, I've been jotting down a pros and cons list for the 2 options of what I've heard everyone has said so far. I can share my screen and put it up right now. if you guys are okay with that. Just to
Go
help
right ahead.
discussion.
Go right ahead.
If anyone wants to add something to either one option or the other, just call it out and I'll jot it down. But I am a little confused at the motion that's on the table, because I was under the impression at this point we were deciding between having a permanent chair, like how Mr. Clark was saying, or following the California model, which is what MC was saying.
That's not the motion that's on the table.
I see. Okay, but if this motion were to fail, I assume the next motion would be for one of those two models. So that's just something.
There's 12. I'm not going to make a motion. There's 12 other people that can make a motion.
There is a motion already, so I believe we have to vote one way or the other before a different motion can be put up.
That was my question, is now that there's a motion on the table to get rid of it, do we have to vote, or is
Yes.
it get rid of it?
Motion's on the table.
Okay.
So can I motion to table this current motion right now?
You can make that motion, and it's not debatable. And I think without looking at a chart, it has to have a majority vote. So all in favor, we'll do this by a hand vote. All in favor of tabling this motion, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. It fails. The motion is before us to have a chairman and vice chairman chosen for a 6-month period. There's no further discussion. We will, oh, there is further discussion. I'm sorry, Anthony. You did have further discussion.
Oh, no, I'm done with my point.
All right. So I will do this. I want to do this by roll call. And
I wonder if I could make another sort of friendly amendment, because I wonder if we just said that we will agree that they can't be from the same party, that the chair and vice chair can't be from the same party. For example.
How would you know?
Yeah, that's what how will we know?
Well, our party affiliations are publicly listed.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I know for that Steve is unaffiliated currently.
Yeah, it's stated in the you had to state that when you applied. So it's not a secret. Well, MC, I think you can make that motion. I think it's premature because what we're dealing with right now is simply how long we're going to have a vice chair and chair for 6 months. We haven't decided who. That's where that motion would come in. Okay, bring it back.
Okay.
Okay. Sally, are you there?
I'm here.
You want to do a roll call, please? I will restate the motion. The motion is to, we will elect a chair and a vice chair for a period of 6 months from today.
Absolutely. Just give me one moment. And just to note, Anthony, you are still sharing your screen. I want to make sure you know. Either way, it's fine. Okay, great. So I will read in reverse alphabetical order again by first name. So Stephen Lett.
Yes.
Richard Weiss.
No.
Rhonda Lang. Oh, you're on mute, Rhonda.
Sorry, no.
MC Rothhorn.
No.
Juanita Curry.
Yes.
Janice Follett.
Yes.
Ed Decker.
Yes.
Aaron Wagner.
No.
Dustin Witchess.
Yes.
Doug Clark.
Yes.
Cynthia Orton.
Yes.
Brittany Kellum.
Yes.
Anthony Eid,
No.
give me a moment to tally this, acting chair.
Do we need a majority or do we need 2/3 for this to pass? Just a point of clarification.
To my knowledge, all of our votes are majority votes.
Gotcha.
There is no super majority to my knowledge, unless Mike has something different that he could enlighten us on, but I don't believe it's that. Okay, by my count, it was 8-5. For a yes.
That was my count as well.
Okay.
You got it.
And I'm going to make a motion to keep Steve Lett as the chair for the first 6 months.
Is there a second?
I second that.
I second that.
Okay. Okay. Are there any other nominations? Come on, people.
So we're nominating the vice chair now, right?
Well, let's vote on them one at a time.
Okay.
So, if there are no more nominations, I will declare the nominations closed.
Brittany, you're
Want
not
to take a
willing
vote on one name, or can we agree on it?
I want to streamline it. So I'm asking Brittany, because I know you specifically said vice chair.
Yeah.
But are you willing to be considered as chair too? Should we make it like a vote?
I won't feel bad, Brittany. Now,
No,
don't.
that's not it. I'm on the fence. I'll throw my name in, but
I'd like to nominate you.
Yeah.
Thank you, MC.
I think we need a vice.
As long as you don't, I was just thinking about vice because like for balance and other reasons, but sure. Bear with me with Robert's rules, but I can brush up and be working together. I don't mind. I don't mind.
I'll second the nomination, MC.
Okay. Okay, Brittany, give them your campaign speech.
Okay. As I said yesterday, I have experience as an executive director, which means that I have monthly meetings and I'm familiar with Robert's rules and conducting business in an orderly fashion. I truly believe in a collaborative approach in terms of hearing folks' voices, as well as creating a safe space. I'm really, really into that. I think whoever is the chair has to be cognizant of the mission of the commission, but also willing to be more of a listener than a talker and create an environment in which everyone feels empowered. So I do have the kind of hard skills to do the job, as well as when I, reflect back on yesterday and the work that we'll need to do for community engagement. I have done that my whole life. Advocacy is something that comes as natural to me as breathing. And I would take it seriously and not consider myself as a leader, but creating an environment where we can all learn together and feel that we're making informed decisions.
Thank you. Everybody has seen, I'm sorry, Doug?
Yes, I would like to put forth a motion to adjust the original motion to include what MC had talked about before and to not have the chair and the vice chair both from the same party.
I don't believe that they are. I believe Steve is unaffiliated, and I think Brittany is if I remember correctly, off of the Democratic side. I don't remember.
Is that correct, Brittany?
I thought we were going to vote between Steve and Brittany for chair.
No, we're only voting for a chairperson at the moment. We have not come to vice chair yet.
All right.
The only thing I was going to say in my campaign speech is you've seen how I operate. Clearly, I don't see this as a leadership position for anything other than to facilitate the meeting, try to keep the conversation going, and maybe make a ruling here or there on a fine point of Robert's Rules of Order. So I'll leave it up to you. There are no more nominations, which I assume there aren't. They're closed. We'll take it in a vote. I guess we'll do a roll call vote. All of those who would vote for Brittany as chair. Sally, where are you?
Hello.
Question, can we just do a roll call vote of all 13 of us to see who we want to vote as opposed to saying yay or nay for who wants to be chair? So just say your name or hers.
Anybody got an objection to that? Okay. Call the roll and they'll say who they want.
Okay. I will go in alphabetical order by first name. Anthony Ede.
I'll vote for Steve.
Brittany Kellum.
Brittany.
Cynthia Orton.
Steve.
Doug Clark.
Steve.
Dustin Witches.
Steve.
Aaron Wagner.
Oh, Brittany.
Ed Decker.
Steve.
Janice Villette.
Brittany.
Juanita Curry.
Steve.
MC Rothorn.
Brittany.
Rhonda Lang.
It's tough. I'm going to go with Brittany.
Richard Weiss.
Steve.
Steve Lett.
Steve. All right. I continue as chair. We had two people running. Brittany had first indicated that she would put her name in as vice. I would certainly request that she continue with me as vice chair. I would be extremely pleased if she would, and I would ask that the commission acknowledge, unless there's some other, somebody's going to jump in here that wants to be vice chair, I would ask that we, by consensus, approve Brittany as vice chair.
Yeah, I was going to make a motion to just do a vote to make Brittany vice chair currently.
Okay.
And I second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded to make Brittany the vice chair. If any discussion by anybody?
I was thinking just for debate's sake, I'd throw my name in. So there's a little, at least, competition for the seat.
Now, are we back to this question of party?
I am independent, so.
We determined Brittany's a Democrat. Did we determine that? You want to make me look it up?
I said that's what I affiliate with. Yep.
All right.
I do like MC's idea here. I would suggest that if we have a independent as chair, we have either a Democrat or a Republican as a vice chair.
I would agree with that.
We can each have a little speech and then we can all vote on it.
Okay. Brittany, did you want to say anything more? You did a really good job.
I will make a stretch of a comment. I think it's important to have representation, and I think that's what I'll say on top of my ability to connect with community, and as well as bolster your facilitation during meetings and act in your stead. That would be an honor.
Anthony.
Well, first I'd like to say I think no matter how this turns out, I think, Steve, you're going to do a great job. And I think either Brittany or either of us would do a great job as well. So let's start off by saying that. Let's keep the positivity going here. I do think I would be a good fit for the role of vice chair. The vice chair would obviously become the chairperson for whatever meeting we have in the next 6 months in case Steve isn't able to make it. And I think I have the skills and the ability to, serve the 13 of you in that role. Like I said yesterday, I've been the chair of many committees during my educational career. And I think the skills I've obtained through those committees, put me in a good position to facilitate the discussions we have, keep our meetings on track, make sure everybody who wants to have speaking rights has speaking rights. And just, generally making sure we have a good, fun time. I also think that representation is very important. Being a first generation minority myself, I think that's very important. I think I'm also the youngest person on this committee. Steve, I don't know how old you are, but I'd assume you're quite a bit older than I am. So I think the delta between our ages would probably be a pretty good one there.
Okay.
But yeah, that's all I got.
All right. You want to do the vote the same way we did? We'll call the roll and you'll say the name. Okay. Sally, call the roll, please.
Okay, commissioners. I'll go in reverse alphabetical order by first name. Steve. Lett.
Brittany.
Richard Weiss.
Brittany.
Rhonda Lang.
Brittany.
MC Rothorn.
Brittany.
Juanita Curry.
Brittany.
Janice Villette.
Brittany.
James Decker.
Anthony.
Sorry, Ed.
Anthony.
I'm sorry, Ed. Aaron Wagner.
Brittany.
Austin Witches.
Brittany.
Doug Clark.
Anthony.
Cynthia Orton. Oh, Cynthia, I don't think we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, Anthony.
Brittany Cullum.
Brittany.
And Anthony Aid.
I'll say Anthony, but I believe Brittany has it.
You believe correctly. 9-4 for Brittany. Okay, we are at a break time unless somebody has some comment they can, in fact, we're way past break time. Let's take, it says 5, but let's take 10 minutes. We've been doing good work. And so let's take a breather. It's what, 12 after? We'll come back at 22. 3:22.
Can I make a suggestion of what to think about when we come back?
Sure.
Just because all these meetings are recorded, are certain like positions even needed, like recording secretary or treasurer or anything like that? Things to think about, because it's all going to be part of a public record anyway. So I don't know if we need to be recording minutes or doing anything of the sort. So I guess while we go on break, take a thought. Well, no, Mike's got his hand up. He clearly has an idea. So,
well, Mike, can I suggest, I mean, you know what Dustin's thoughts are. Can we talk about that when we get back? Okay. 10 minutes. 22 after. No, yeah, 22, 23.
Is anyone getting any kind of feedback out of curiosity, like a beep or a squeal?
Yeah, it sounds like a
I'm not.
No, I'm not.
I'm running around here trying to find a fire alarm and it's not really working.
Okay, we have everybody back and we left off with Mike had his hand up. Mike.
Let's see, I think Dustin had posed a question just in terms of other roles to be considered. And whatever else the commission would like to do on that front, I simply wanted to remind you that you need not select a secretary because the Constitution provides that you already have a secretary, of course, being a non-voting secretary who is, of course, also the Secretary of State. So that was the one thing I was going to add there. While I've got you, I also wanted to correct the record. I had stated erroneously earlier that quorum for this commission is 7 members. It's not. That's what it would be under the Open Meetings Act. As I noted earlier, the requirements of this commission in several different respects go above and beyond some of the requirements in the Open Meetings Act. This is one of them. Quorum for this commission per subsection 10 of, Article 4, Section 6, subsection 10, it states that 9 commissioners, including at least 1 commissioner from each selection pool. So that would be 1 person who affiliates with the Democratic Party, 1 person who affiliates with the Republican Party, and 1 person who does not affiliate with either major party. That's what quorum is. So with that correction, I return this to you all.
Mike, give me that section again, please.
That's subsection 10. It begins with the words, each commissioner shall perform his or her duties. And then the third sentence begins with 9 commissioners, comma, including at least 1 commissioner from each selection pool, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, any questions on that from anybody? I thought I had read that somewhere, but I couldn't remember where.
Yeah, I was thinking, after I said it, it stayed with me, so.
Okay, but Dustin's question was regarding other positions, duties, etc. Clearly, since we haven't seen the Secretary of State here taking notes in shorthand, I'm assuming she has assigned that to someone probably that we don't know who that is, but they're doing it. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, Sally Marsh, Sarah Reinhold, and myself are working on that, and we will in fact have minutes for your review at your next meeting for approval. On that note, I believe it is on the agenda, but just wanted to flag that eyeing the clock and not sure other obligations and sense of timing for the commission itself, but certainly an important item would be making sure that there's enough time to at least schedule another meeting before this meeting ends. And again, I know you have a lot on your plate, but that's certainly an important one.
We're set to go to, well, 5 o'clock we have public comment, and I know we have 1 person, at least 1 person. I'll kick it back to Dustin. It's very disconcerting. Everybody keeps moving around in these squares. So by the time I get used to where you were, Dustin, you've moved. You brought up a point, do we need a secretary? Do we need this? Do we need that? And I guess I'd be more than happy to hear what your thoughts are on that.
Well, I was just thinking about structure of other kind of organizations that I was a part of. So we had like a president, vice president, recording secretary, treasurer, so on and so forth. So if the Secretary of State, along with Sally and everyone else is taking notes, then clearly we don't need that. And then I have no idea what our budget is. I've just heard what people have said in California and Arizona, but I'm going to assume that our budget is going to be handled by the state itself. So I don't even know if a treasurer would be necessary for our group of commissioners. And then those are the only two real important, like, I guess, offices you could call them, I've ever had to deal with. So that was my main concern. I mean, I didn't know if those were going to be handled by us or if it was going to be handled by the Secretary of State, which it sounds like that is indeed the case.
Doug, you had your hand up?
Yeah, it was my impression, Dustin, that it's handled by the state. And the coordination point between us and the state is going to be the executive director. Once we appoint or get an executive director appointed. That was my impression of how it was going to work. And then the other things that we have to go out and hire people for, such as legal counsel and so forth. I mean, we would use the executive director to help us through the procurement process or the RFP process. Well, we would make the decisions on who those individuals would be. That's my impression of how it's going to work.
Yeah, that's what I've gathered in the last 5 minutes as well. So,
as far as the budget goes, per the amendment, we are at 25% of whatever the Secretary of State's budget is. The last figures that I saw were for this past fiscal year, and that would bring our budget up to around $5.5 million. And judging from what California said, though, I doubt that we're going to be as expensive as California was. We probably are going to use all of it, would be my bet. But
Arizona used as much as California, I thought.
Pardon?
I thought Arizona used as much money as California.
You could be right. I don't recall that, but I certainly wouldn't doubt it. What I remember about Arizona is she said they had to go hat in hand begging for money from the legislature. And of course, we won't know what the final is until the end of this month. Other comments on structure, that's what we're talking about.
So is that all? I know that we're assuming that what we're saying is correct as far as a treasurer goes, but is that actually correct? Can some of the MDOS people chime in?
Mike looks like he's ready to chime. Chime away, Mike.
Mike, we can't hear
This
you.
is one of the questions.
Oh, we got you now.
Can you hear me now?
Gotcha.
Okay. Thank you. So this was a common question that we'd received from some of you, and certainly just in trying to think through and anticipate questions that you would ask. With that in mind, I may have alluded yesterday to just conversations I'd had with folks in the legislature to understand how this would work for you all, since your budget actually sits in the legislative branch. I think what Doug said makes a lot of sense and probably will certainly be the case, assuming you hire an executive director, and once you have an executive director, that they will then have your authority to act and move forward with whatever you need to do along those lines. In the interim, the conversation with the legislative branch, just talking about some other issues, whether it be technical, payroll, other administrative support. Frankly, even an executive director may not actually be in the best position to handle the mechanics of payroll within, the larger budget of the state, and to look what all of that entails. But the executive director would be authorized by you to do what needed to be done there. So the legislature suggested that they have something called the Legislative Council. It exists as a bipartisan organization. It's actually strict that it is a nonpartisan organization that is part of the professionalized civil service. The people who run that and the people who work there, as I understand it, are not allowed to be involved in partisan politics at all. And they serve both chambers of the legislature and also both parties in the legislature. They do that again in a nonpartisan way. So given the independence and real, rationale for this commission, they thought that might be something that would be able to provide some of the sort of like back end support for the commission in terms of, payroll for you all and payroll for your executive director and whatever else. Because again, if when you have an executive director, there are still going to be basic logistics questions and basic, back end operating, financial, HR, otherwise, whatever, all those things, technology matters that probably won't make sense for you to fully build out for a year, but rather you'd be able to rely on this nonpartisan group. Whether you decide to do that is entirely up to you as an autonomous body. But I've received the green light from the quadrant leaders. These are the 4 legislative leaders of the legislature, that they would be, that they're amenable to, allowing the legislative council as a nonpartisan, somewhat independent organization within the legislature to support you in the same way that maybe they provide to other bodies of the legislature. So that's an update I wanted to, relay to you all, and also say, if there's something that you would like us to, start a conversation on that front, then, myself, Sally, et cetera, can do that. We just need a clear direction from you all to start that process. There's it feels a little bit like a chicken or the egg situation, and that's not for lack of interest or, on anybody's part. It is somewhat, frankly, almost by design, just given your autonomous nature and that you're brand new, not you, but the commission itself is brand new. Presumably some of these things will not be the same in 10 years when you have when we all have a new commission being seated, because they'll be able to look to what you did. You guys don't have that, unfortunately. So we're trying to, all respect your autonomy while also, just do the basic nuts and bolts and, provide answers to you all for like how you can do what you need to do.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Any further discussion along those lines? It would seem to me that we would want to have Mike or Sally or Sarah or whoever that's going to be. It seems like Sarah or Sally is kind of our touchstone person to reach out to this legislative council. Are we in agreement that we need to get to hiring an executive director of some description? Okay, I think we need a motion on that. Somebody motion that we would move.
I'll motion that we need to hire an executive director.
And I second that.
Second, all right. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of agreeing to hire an executive director signify by saying aye.
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 All in opposed to that, say I'll do it. No, nobody's volunteering, so now Mike, come back. Is this something that the Legislative Council can assist us with?
Absolutely.
Okay. I think with the consensus of everybody, at least let's go talk to them and see what they've got to say and then bring that back to us.
If I may.
Go ahead.
So on the topic of the, I think this is being somewhat distinct. I think that the sorts of things that the Legislative Council would be able to assist you with, especially at this early date, would be including setting up that email address, a government email address for you. That's something, again, that we'd be able to do, we being the Department of State, and again, practically speaking, it'll be me and Sally and Sarah, would be able to do on your behalf at your direction and work with the Legislative Council to do that. If you all haven't discussed your own salary and or your own payment and when the schedule on which you want to be paid, neither here nor there, but just that's something that you'll have to get to at some point. And if and when you want to be paid, the Legislative Council would be able to do that for you, and the Department of State can facilitate that interaction where, can facilitate that with the Legislative Council. The question you just raised in terms of the executive director, I actually wonder if a more direct route that I could offer, and for your consideration, whatever that may be, is basically having a job posting that we staff at the Department of State could just draft a basic posting for the executive director. We've assembled some of the job postings for other commissions around the country, and we've gathered those from California just to understand what those would look like in anticipation of this. And so, at one point we had thought maybe we would just develop that draft and bring it to you today. We decided not to do that because we didn't want that to be misunderstood by you all as us taking a more active role. But in terms of kind of bottom line, just being very pragmatic about this, if you want an executive director, I think you're going to need to post that position just as a practical matter so the world knows you're looking and people know who do they contact. Do you want a resume? I imagine. Do you want a writing sample? Do you want references? With all those basic things that come with hiring, we can do that very simply. We could send that along. You guys can approve that at your next meeting, and then we can post it on at your direction. And those are things that I think fit well with our role as in the Constitution as being non-voting secretary. And so again, I just offer that as something. I think that would probably be easier for something like the executive director role than having the Legislative Council provide that, as I view their role here as being more technical.
Doug.
And Mike, and then once you do the job posting, let's assume 3 people posted for the job, we would have the opportunity to interview each of those individuals, and then we would choose which one we wanted to have. Can't hear you, Mike.
Yeah, forgive me. I hope that you can hear me now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So absolutely, the actual selection can only be done by you all, and the Constitution actually provides specific rules for the hiring and discharge of your employees and your consultants. So that definitely fits with you. I'm just kind of looking at it to say, before you get to the hiring stage, you got to actually get people interested, to know that there's a job out there and what that would look like. So, we all want to move, I understand you all, want to move quickly on it, but just from a very pragmatic matter, I think we've all held jobs before, and we probably saw a job posting and we applied for that job. And so, you all have now voted that you want an executive director, which is an important first step. But the next step to kind of make that into a reality, at least from my vantage point, and I'm open to whatever you guys want to do, is that you need to actually write up your job description. You're going to pay this much. The person's going to serve on a contract maybe for this period of time. They're going to get benefits. They're not, whatever that is, all those different things. And so it's just that chicken or the egg. And so what I want to make clear is the Department of State is happy to do a draft job description for you, but then you all will have to approve that job description and then direct us to put it on, make it available, send it out to, search firms or not, or just post it online or whatever else. And then once resumes come back in, if you want us, because again, you don't have staff yet, we can assemble those resumes, create a board packet for each of you or a commission packet for each of you, just as we did in advance of this meeting. And then you all will have an opportunity to vet those resumes, vet those candidates, decide who you want to interview, conduct the interview in a public meeting, all of that. So all the things I just said may end up taking a few meetings actually, just in terms of the approval of the job description, posting it, getting the resumes back, reviewing the resumes, who do you want to interview, all of that, and all of that has to happen in a public meeting.
In a public meeting. Well, I was going to suggest that we put together a committee to do all that work and then come back to the group as a recommendation on who to hire. I don't know how other people feel about that.
MC, you had your hand up.
Yeah, but I saw Rhonda shaking her head. I want to see if Rhonda had something to say.
Rhonda.
As far as that goes, as a committee for hiring and then bring back the recommendations, I think from my perspective, I would want to be there when questioning them. I wouldn't want a committee to interview possible people that we would be hiring. I want to hear, their responses to questions that are asked in person. I mean, not that I wouldn't trust the opinion of anybody, any of the other commissioners, but I am a very hands-on, I like to see and hear things. So I think it would be more beneficial to me. Plus I kind of get a feel for people, a read of people when I'm actually there and listening to them. So I think as far as I go, it would be beneficial if I was there.
MC.
And I think what I'm hoping that we're going to do here is try to create a structure about how we're going to do these things. And what I'm thinking, right, because I agree with you, Rhonda, and I think what Doug is suggesting potentially may be advisory. And what I'm imagining right now is that we have to sort of understand enough about each other, like how we're going to work. Like, and I mean, what I mean is like, when we're meeting again, like, are we going to meet as committees? And we have to set up our pay. There's a number of pieces that feel really important to me that feel, I'm not sure if we're taking the first, I'm not sure if we're discussing hiring or how to hire, and maybe should we be discussing like what pieces we want on the job description, or should we have an advisory committee? You know what? I apologize. I'm actually going to stop talking because I haven't formulated everything, and I'm going to just stop. Doug
and then Cynthia. Doug.
No, I agree with you. We got to figure out the structure. If we take what Rhonda said and we did that with everybody we hired, we're going to eat into 13 people's time many, many, many times. Where I think we have to rely on each other in committees to do the work. But that's the structure that I believe MC's talking about, that we got to figure out on how we're going to do this work, and then we got to execute to it.
Cynthia.
Well, I was just thinking, I really like what Mike said, that that they have pulled together information from the previous commissions, and so that would give them an idea of what a job posting would look like, who we're searching for. So I think that we should make a motion to have them start putting that together, and then we can look at it and go from there. As we're talking about how we're going to structure things, we still need to get the information out there so people will apply.
Okay, I hear motion on the floor that we direct the Secretary of State's staff to bring back a potential posting and potential job description for our review and to do what we want to do with it. Dustin, you got your hand up?
Oh, I just had a question. Like when it comes to committees, we can't really split up into committees because we're all going to have to be here anyway when we're interviewing them. We have to, all of us need to really, well, at least 9 of us have to be here to listen to them talk, I imagine, correct? Like we can't just have a committee off on their own doing their own thing without us all listening in.
Well, you can't have a committee of less than 9 make a decision. You certainly can have a committee listening to what, interviewing what they are, and then bringing it back to the committee of the whole for decision.
Okay.
You can't make a decision in a subcommittee.
Got it. I understand.
MC.
And to be super clear, I'm imagining that that these committees are advisory. And so, for example, like I don't have a strong interest in like helping our secretary and the staff from the Secretary of State go back and forth with what sort of criteria do we want to have? Like what I'm suggesting is that if, like Rhonda, for example, you might be on a committee that sort of helps craft the back and forth, like helps just the communication, and then you bring it to us as a whole to ratify. But you and other people in the advisory committee have sort of worked out some of the things, and you can help as a committee represent to the staff, right, what we might be thinking about, right? And we can have we can have a discussion about what we want so that you feel better informed about how do you represent and advise, I say. But I guess what I'm suggesting is that the committees feel like a way to, I'm already starting to feel overwhelmed, frankly, like with the amount of work that we have to do. And what I'm seeing as we start to structure ourselves, right? I'm trying to feel like I'm being drawn to the communities of interest, for example. Like I really would love to start working on that. And I'm feeling less drawn to the legal stuff for me. And so what I'm imagining is how how do each of us, I'm imagining some of you are feeling that way too, right? You're being drawn to one part of this, but maybe not the whole thing. Of course, we have to be a whole and make a decision as a whole. And right, in order to work with our staff well, so that we have communication and divide and conquer, I think was the language that was used in the other commissions. I'm imagining advisory committee stuff where there's just enough of us to help the staff think it through so that they are representing us, and then helping, then we all decide. But that's what I'm imagining, advisory. I want to just make sure that it feels like advisory. Check.
Doug.
Yeah, let me make an analogy to what I think MC is saying. Let's look at the Senate at the federal level. They have committees, and the committees work out all the details between them, and then they come to the floor for the final vote. So we would have committees, and the final vote would be the 13 of us. I think that's what you're getting at, MC. Because we've got so much work in front of us, we can't have 13 people deal with all of the issues all the time. We don't have enough cycles to do that.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor, seconded, that we ask the Secretary of State staff to bring back to us a proposed job posting and a proposed job description, which I would, from the comments that I'm hearing, would be simply a starting point for our consideration, whether or not we wanted to accept it, whether or not we want to make changes, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a motion on the floor. I see Mike has his hand up. Mike?
Point of clarification. I saw, I had in my notes that Cynthia had moved forward. I did not capture a second on that. And I'm just wondering who the second was.
I also did not hear a second.
There wasn't one.
Okay.
Well, before that, before anyone seconds it, I would like to propose a course of action that we take. Okay. The first thing we need to do is decide which positions we want to hire. After we do that, we can then instruct the Secretary of State to bring us example job postings. And when they bring us they can bring us a few examples of every position, and then we as a commission can decide which one of those to go ahead and post. That's the first thing we need to do, in my opinion. After that, I echo what MC was saying, right? I don't think it takes 13 of us to go through what's probably going to be hundreds of applications. How I've done hiring in the past is we can set up a committee of maybe 3 or 4 of us that take all of the applications that we get from the job posting and then dilute that down to maybe the top 5 or however, whatever smaller number that we decide. And then the committee brings those applicants to us as a larger commission, and then us as a commission decides between those applicants. That would be what I propose, if anyone has any thoughts on that.
Are you making that a motion? Let me ask this first. Cynthia made a motion. Is there a second for that motion?
I'd like to second Cynthia's motion.
Who was that?
That was Ed.
Ed, okay. So it's now open for discussion. Anthony, I will take that as discussion for this motion. Is that acceptable?
Yeah, I'm in support of the motion. I just think that, while to expedite things, while we do that, we might want to add a few other positions to it.
Okay. So you're making that kind of as a friendly amendment?
I suppose.
Will you accept that as a friendly amendment, Cynthia? I can't hear you.
I think MC wants to say something first.
Yeah,
I think okay, but here's where we get Roberts in. He's made an amendment. I'm asking if you'll accept it as a friendly amendment, which will change your amendment. Are you accepting of that?
I'm going to say no right now, just because.
All right, it's just an amendment. MC.
So I think the danger there, Anthony, is that if we decide who the executive director needs to hire, I think we are in danger of I think we should just decide that we as a board, we as a commission, right, hire the executive director, and then the executive director will make recommendations and we will sort of approve the budget, or maybe there's a committee that approves the budget. But the idea is that the executive director actually will hire the rest of the people, right? It helps us be in the role of decision makers and not actually functioning like an executive director. And so what I'm saying is I don't disagree with you, right? I think that is important, but I don't think it's the first thing. I think we have to really decide, what kind of executive director do we want, right? Where are we going to hire? Like, who are we going to ask for? Are we going to ask for minority candidates? Are we going to ask for people who are like great at VRA, like the Voting Rights Act, right? Like there's all the things that were in our orientation materials. I think it's really important that we sort of say, who and where are we going to post this? How widespread are we going to, what's the time frame? What's the job, like, excuse me, what's the pay, right? Are we going to be competitive? And yeah, frankly, like, who are we going to trust? So what I'm saying is, like, I do think it's really important that we just focus on the executive director and let them help us decide what the other pieces are. We'll have an input, but I don't think we don't want to decide that as the first thing.
Brittany.
I would agree with what MC is saying, and a little bit of Anthony, so I guess it's a conundrum, but I think if we establish criterion that we as a commission want to see in the candidate and we give that to the ED, and that's what we're working off of, like this is who we would like to work with in this capacity, then you can kind of get this hybrid best of both worlds, if I'm hearing what's being expressed correctly.
Doug, you had their hand up.
The only comment, I think I may have made this before, is I would see the committee doing that work, but then bringing it to the 13 of us, and the 13 of us would say, yeah, that's what we want to do.
All right, we have a motion that's been made and seconded by Cynthia, seconded by
Ed,
that we ask the Secretary of State employees to bring us a posting example and a job description example. Is there any further discussion? Are we ready to vote?
We do have those examples already in our materials. So we could go a little bit further and just sort of say, hey, are there people within our commission who want to help review that with the staff, right? To sort of craft it, because we do have those materials.
They would be, I mean, I would see them as being part of we would review when the staff brings us whatever they're going to bring us, plus what we have already would be what we would be looking at.
I agree.
I agree.
I mean, I'm not, I guess I'm hearing, what I think I'm hearing is that the, whatever the staff brings us is a fait accompli. I don't see that. Whatever they bring us is a starting point, as far as I'm concerned. So, let's do a hand vote and see if I got to take a roll call vote. All in favor of the motion to ask the staff to bring us the posting and the job description, raise your hand. That's everybody. It's unanimous.
But they're going to need things that we have to decide yet. They can't create a job without a pay.
No, I disagree. I don't think they're going to need.
They've
already talked about it. They're not inventing the wheel here.
Okay.
There's lots of commissions in the state of Michigan.
Okay.
And whatever they bring us, if we don't like it, we can say,
right,
take it back, try it again. We don't like this. Don't take this the wrong way, MC. Don't overthink this at this stage of the game.
So
we got a long way to go, and we're just getting started.
And the risk is that we do it the standard way. And I want to make sure that we have, that we sort of look like we're doing things thoughtfully, and that we're doing things thoughtfully. What I'm suggesting is, like, I think that the way that we look to the outside and the way that we deliberate, if we just have them bring stuff, and I mean, we can deliberate it, but we can also say like, gosh, we have things in our materials right now. We want to, for example, say, we absolutely think that it's most important to make sure that we have an executive director who is a woman, for example, because we want to make sure that we have representation, for example, right? Or we want to have a executive director who has 15,000 years of experience, for example. But go ahead, Rhonda.
Okay, I know you said for example, but then are you not getting into a legal part as far as discrimination based off from sex? If you say, I want my executive director to be a woman, that's all I'm asking. If I know you were using it just as an example, but if you make comments like that, then is there going to be some kind of legal ramification? I'm not an attorney. I'm just asking.
That's fair.
Okay. I want to move on to a couple of things that maybe won't take as much discussion. Emails. Everybody right now is using their private email, their own personal email. We certainly have, as I understand it from Mike and Sally, the ability to request Michigan.gov emails, and I certainly would strongly, highly urge everybody to do that, because when the lawsuits start filing and start coming, they're going to want our emails. And if you've been using your personal email, as they said earlier today, they're going to start rummaging around, going on a fishing expedition in your computer and your email account. Now, if you don't put anything in there, you don't care about anybody seeing, that's fine. Probably I don't have anything in there that I care about anybody seeing, but I certainly don't want them rummaging around in my email account. So my question is everybody, and you can pick and choose, I guess. I mean, I'm going to ask them for an email account. Do we all want to ask them to provide us with an email account, which obviously is going to be your name at Michigan.gov. That's the way it works.
So do we need someone to make a motion for that?
Sure. Go ahead, Cynthia.
Okay. I move to request that the Secretary of State team get us emails, government emails.
Second, third, fourth, and fifth.
Okay. All in favor, raise your hand. All right. Mike, did you get that?
We got that.
Got it. All right. So that takes care of emails. Mike, come back. Are we going to need Michigan IDs?
Can't hear you.
Should be now. Okay. Yeah, there's always a lag. Yeah, it's an interesting question. I'm not sure. I only use my ID to access government buildings. And that is to say access those parts of government buildings that are not open to the public, like my office. So perhaps a different question might be one that we anticipated, a year ago was, would you need your own office space? Nowadays, at least for the time being, I wouldn't recommend that, as most people are not working in person. But if you have a different thought behind a value that could come from government ID, then please let me know, and happy to hear you out on that.
Well, since I asked the question, I'll give you my thoughts. You're right. I mean, it was anticipated that we would, when we started this process, we'd have an office, and that the executive director would have an office. I'm not so sure that once we get an executive director and a staff that they're not going to need some office space. Also, I had anticipated that we would be going here and there and yon to have these conferences, listening sessions. So I guess my personal preference would be that we would go ahead move forward with getting ideas so that we got them in place if we ever need them, number one. And when you say buildings that are open that you have access to, that the public has access to, there aren't very many buildings around anymore that you don't have to either go through security or have an ID to get through. And that would include the Secretary of State's office, the Austin building, all of those buildings you're required to do that. So we have to do that. Doesn't mean we have to rush out and get one, but I would like to have the ability, have it set up so if we want one, we can get one. Yes, Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's helpful background. My ID as an employee at the Department of State allows me to access the building that I work in. But we have other buildings at the Department of State, and I don't believe like there's a secondary complex. It's outside of Lansing as an aside, and so because I don't work there, my ID doesn't actually let me get in there, even though that is actually a Department of State building. Similarly, or I guess even more perhaps obvious, across the walkway from our building is I think the Department of Transportation building. I've never tried to go in there, but I have tried to go in the AG's office, and my badge doesn't work to let me in the AG's office. So I just want to clarify to say, like, as a state, like the state ID, the state badge is really more of a special, like it doesn't apply to all of the, I don't even know how many thousands of people work for the state of Michigan. It really is about like individual access to your floor or office space or other things, that go with that. Not dissimilar from, where I worked before. I used to work in the Guardian building in downtown Detroit, and I had a badge that came with, the office lease that I had there. And that badge would take me to my office floor, but not to any other office floor. And so I think it's really more akin to that than anything else. So I can certainly note that, but I'm not sure at this point, until you have office space, that one, it would be able to actually get you a badge, because the badge would be tied to like where you need access. And I'm not sure at this point that you actually need physical access to, any individual building in state government.
Okay, I'll take that answer. It's too bad they've got your name on all those lists. All right, so that takes care of the ID. How are we going to get paid? We don't have a budget yet. Clearly, it was said earlier today that Sally said that we're in for about 80 thou a year. Is that what I heard you say?
Can I just quickly, a couple quick notes on the budget. So you all are guaranteed compensation equal to 25% of the governor's salary, which is about $40,000. In addition, I also wanted to mention that and we touched on this earlier, I believe, but the Constitution does require that the legislature set aside a budget for you basically in every fiscal year, which means every year of the state government budget. And so for this past fiscal year, which ends at the end of this month, so really shortly, you were appropriated funds, which obviously you couldn't access until now, but you will be then again appropriated roughly the same amount. For this past fiscal year, the amount was $3.3 million. It will depend on it'll depend on some of the minutia of the budget process, but you will have a budget that is millions of dollars that is appropriated to you as part of the constitutional requirement.
Okay, and I had the question, in addition to the quote salary, the compensation, there would be reimbursement for expenses if we travel. Am I correct in that? Sally.
So that I'm smiling and Mike is smiling because that's one of maybe the most frequently asked questions that we got over the course of the application cycle. And the answer is actually that you all have the ability to decide whether or not you are going to use some of the budget allotted to you to reimburse your travel fees.
Okay. Very good. Of course, right now we're not doing any traveling. That may change. So I guess what we're faced with, the state probably isn't going to just give us $40,000 to put in our bank account right away. They do pay every 2 weeks. So we wanted to get on a regular payroll. I'm assuming that could be done on that method. I am also assuming that they could probably pay monthly. Any thoughts on that?
I'm hoping for lump sum so I can pay off some student loans. That'd be nice.
Well, you could make a motion that we pay the extra out of our budget for you.
Yeah.
Doug.
Yeah, I'd like to put a motion forward that we get paid on a monthly basis and that each of us get paid 25% of the governor's monthly salary at the end of each month, and that travel expenses are appropriately reimbursed to every one of us, and not just travel, but any expenses. It's appropriately reimbursed.
Any second?
Can we
I just want to amend.
discussion on the motion at all?
You got to have a second first.
I second it.
Who seconded?
Juanita Curry. I second it.
Motion's made and seconded. The motion is that we be paid on a monthly basis pursuant to the amendment, which is 25% of the governor's salary, equal monthly basis, and that allowable expenses such as travel, and if you're away having to stay at a motel or something, those would be reimbursable, plus a per diem for meals. That's the motion that's been seconded. Discussion. MC, you had your hand up.
I see Mike, he might have something first.
Okay, Mike.
Thank you. Just wanted to flag. So with, as Sally noted, this being one of the most frequently asked questions over the last year and a half as we set this thing up, in consultation with the AG's office, just to point out the actual language in the Constitution, just so that everybody's clear about what it says and what it doesn't say. So the relevant section here is subsection 5. It's the second to last sentence of subsection 5. It reads, this is the only part where this comes up. It says, each commissioner shall receive compensation at least equal to 25% of the governor's salary. Now, you all have control over your budget. So it does say at least, and whatever else, that's up to you all. Just the ebb and flow, and again, this came up in conversations with the legislature, came up in conversations in the public, all the public comment that we had, all sorts of other things. Some folks had initially kind of assumed, and I mean this like over a year ago, that you had a salary that was equal to 25% of the governor's salary. And it doesn't say salary. As the AG's office pointed out, it says compensation. And what that means is that if you're working for multiple years, you don't necessarily get 25% of the salary every month, just of the governor's salary for that month. So the bare minimum that's provided for here is compensation, and there's going to be an argument here that I know because we've heard this directly from folks. Some people said, well, basically, is that going to be again, that's the bare minimum, but if you did a lump sum all up front, or if you did it every month, well, after 12 months, you will have met the bare minimum for that. And at that point, if you go above and beyond that, that'll be up to you all And I'll just say some of the people, as some of you may have seen, some of the critics of this commission, and frankly, some of the critics, and I don't mean of you all, but I mean of the idea of this commission. Some of the people who spoke out against the commission when it was on the ballot and afterwards described this as being a blank check for people to get on and do whatever they wanted with the government, with taxpayer dollars. And so we certainly heard about that loud and clear during public comment over the course of the last year and a half, of some people saying, hey, there's all that. And other people would say, well, no, actually, it doesn't provide you with 25% of her salary for the next 10 years or for the next 4 years or anything else. It provides you with an amount equal to, again, as a cap, or as a floor, because it does say at least of 25% of the governor's salary. So that, I refer back, as I've been consistent about, you are an autonomous body and everything else that goes with that. But at the same time, the guarantee that you have in the budget and your ability to go back to the legislature to ask for more money, I think, that other section that talks about going back and asking for money seems to pretty clearly link it to, questions of, legal experts and, various other things. I'm not saying it couldn't include this as well, but I just wanted to flag that for you as being a hot topic that Sally and I have heard about a lot over the last year and a half. So that's all.
Thank you. Other comments? Cynthia?
So I just have a question for Mike. And this, I don't know, this is kind of the end before the beginning, but I'm wondering, as far as our budget goes, and I have no idea how much things are going to cost, how much we're going to spend, but what happens to the budget money we don't spend, our budget money that we don't spend at the end?
Goes back to.
Yeah, that's a good question. Forgive me, it does go back, because as Sally mentioned, you actually, one of the, I don't know, it's a curiosities of this amendment is that the legislature was required to appropriate an amount equal to 25% of the Department of State's general fund appropriation a year ago, starting October 1st of last year. And so the commission has been, there's been a line item sitting in the legislature's budget for this commission for the last 11 and a half months. And, you only have, 2 weeks or so now for us to get anything set up on your behalf. So that last amount will go back to the legislature as, as these things do.
That answer your question, Cynthia? In other words, we got to spend a lot of money between now and the end of the month.
Well, so I would just like to make one comment. I feel that probably I'm speaking for all of us, if not almost all of us, as a citizen who wanted to participate in this commission. I do not want to spend more money than we need to. I would like us to be conservative with the taxpayers' money. And I think that's what the taxpayers want when they voted this in. And so just having said that, I think we should move forward with that in mind.
Thank you. Other comments? Anthony, and then Brittany.
Brittany, you can go first. I need a second to gather my thoughts.
All right, Brittany.
How did you? I was gonna use your talking together to finish. It's okay. It's okay.
Okay. Anybody else want to go? These two are thinking.
I will say that I think I would be interested in a biweekly option as opposed to getting paid at the end of the month.
Are you making that as an amendment?
It was part of the discussion, but it could be an amendment, just taking in consideration different folks' circumstances and all of that.
Okay. Is there a second to the amendment?
I'll second that.
Okay. We're on the amendment now. Any discussion on the amendment, which would be a bi-weekly pay? Compensation, as they're putting it.
I do have a question, actually, and it's just because I work in payroll. Are we going to be W-2'd or are we going to be 1099'd?
I have no idea. Where did Mike, or Sally?
It's a good question. I will put it to the Legislative Council. If you guys direct us to speak with them, along those lines and follow up. I suspect, and you might be able to confirm this, given your experience with payroll, or Steve, your experience with employment law, but I think W-2 usually applies to employees. And I'm not sure, offhand, I mean, I would say, like, I'm not speaking as an authority on this, and I will check in and get you a definitive answer, but it kind of seems like 1099 is actually a more appropriate form here than a W-2. That's just my instinct there, Steve, or anyone else, if you have some perspective on that.
So that's what I was thinking as well, is that we'd most likely be 1099 because we're not technically a W-2 employee by the definition per American Payroll Association rules, as far as I can tell. So
I have no experience, so I don't know. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, I would like, Mike?
Yeah, I'm sorry, just a point of clarification on this. I appreciate the back and forth. I certainly heard, I think Doug had made an initial motion, or at least floated an idea, maybe it was a formal motion, to have the payment made monthly. Brittany spoke in favor of, or just raised, the possibility of it being bi-weekly. I don't anticipate there'd be any sort of real issue from the Legislative Council once we set it up in terms of we're setting up one way or the other. I think we certainly want it to be consistent for everybody, just from an accounting and logistics perspective. There's a distinct question, though, that I want to raise and add, just to kind of make sure that whatever you are, whatever you ask us to do, that I know that is just crystal clear for us and for the Legislative Council. So the motion that I think I heard Doug offer at the beginning, this is before I spoke before, said that each month you all, like each of you would get basically a monthly amount, which would be 1/12 of 25% of the governor's salary, her annual salary.
That's what I understand the motion to be, yes.
Yeah, and so along those lines, that means that a year from now, or in fairly short order, because it'll take a moment to get this set up, a week, I don't know how long it will take with the Legislative Council, a year from now, you will have exhausted that amount. And so it means that in taking this vote, to be clear, like, you don't even adopt your, the Constitution says you have to formally adopt the map by November 1st of 2021. So that's 6 weeks away. And it means your last 6 weeks, you would have already gone through your full, you wouldn't have new money coming in unless you were going to vote yourselves collectively money beyond the 25% of the governor's salary. Again, you're an autonomous body, you can do that, but I just want to be clear, by going with Doug's, if you stay with the language that I think he offered, and Steve, you confirmed that that's your read of that as well, then it means that one of your first votes will be to go beyond that 25% cap kind of right out the gate. Or at least to anticipate that, a year from now, you will meet the 25% amount. And then in your last 6 weeks, which I expect would be a busy time for you, that you either kind of re-up at that point or otherwise, or you just run out of money for your last 6 weeks. So that's, and I hate to put all this up front, but just to say, there's a question in terms of, do you want to spread this out over 12 months, which is, I think, what the motion on the floor is, or do you want to spread it out over, let's say, until the end of December 2021 or whatever, or until November 1st, 2020. I mean, you can do whatever you want, but I just want to kind of clarify that that's, I think, actually potentially a bigger question. And I just want to make sure that you all understand what you're voting on, so that when I take it to the legislature, because they'll be asking me about this, that I've got absolute clarity and that I know that you guys have clarity. So that's all.
Anthony.
I think Mike brings up some really good points, and it kind of makes me think we have to think about this a little bit more before taking a vote on it. I didn't realize that the fiscal year for the state ends at the end of the month. I think that's something we need to consider. We also need to consider that the Constitution says we're paid 25% in compensation instead of a salary. That might mean that we can go beyond the 25% for those extra 6 to 8 weeks that go beyond a year. I also want to be conservative with funds, but I do not see a cap here. So it doesn't mean we necessarily need to be limited to 25% of the governor's salary for that period of time that takes place after a year from when we started yesterday. I think that's something to take into consideration. The final thing I think we should take into consideration is in order to complete this job successfully, we might not all incur the same costs. For example, I see in here there's a discussion on technology. I don't foresee myself needing any new technology bot, at least none that I can foresee now. But what I do foresee is a transportation issue, and that might be a cost that I incur that one of you might not incur. So we might need to think about how we want to go about, do we individually regulate ourselves, or do we as a group regulate ourselves as far as incurred costs? Do we maybe set a limit where, like, okay, anything below a certain amount of money, we can submit ourselves for reimbursement, but anything after a certain amount of money, we need the approval from all 13 of us. I think these are just all like pretty important points, actually, that we should probably think about before voting on this motion.
Are you amending the motion? Are you amending the amendment?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm just saying, when everyone votes, you should think about these things before casting your vote.
Anybody else? I have a comment then. I think that the things that you bring up are actually very good and should be considered. I also think they are separate from what the frequency is going to be on spreading out the set compensation, call it what you will, of the 25%. And therefore, I would encourage us to move forward with that. And then whatever else we want to consider on what you're talking about, which would be mileage per diem, whatever else might be, would be a separate item. So having said that, I'll take it back to Cynthia. Brittany, you're the maker of the motion. I'll give you the last word before we vote.
Last word as in, do I have a comment?
Yeah, it's your motion. Do you have a comment?
Yeah, I don't know if it's the right time. It's more so about the amount. I've made the comment about biweekly, which is what I was kind of thinking when Mike was talking. So I'll wait until we kind of settle on this and then raise another question about maybe considering going a little bit beyond the 25%. And as well as Anthony was saying about considering travel costs, because we do need to meet and commune with folks.
Rhonda.
I've seen Sally's hand up for a while, so I just wanted to bring it to your attention.
Oh, Sally.
Hello, acting chair. Hello, commissioners. I just wanted to jump in here and clarify that neither Mike nor I are experts on how LSB, which is the Legal Services Bureau, the entity that would be responsible for executing your payroll. Neither of us are experts on how they do that. It's because of the sort of technicalities of the different parts of state government. That's not who does our payroll. What we need from all of you is authority to speak to them on your behalf, and you could ask us to ask them what your options are and come forward to you, in your next meeting or in future sessions with more clarity. I would hate for all of you to kind of make a vote or otherwise make a decision that doesn't have all of the details. And unfortunately, or fortunately, whatever, either way, Mike and I don't have that expertise. So I want to be upfront with you that that what we need is authority to speak on your behalf.
Any comment, Rhonda, other than telling me to call on her? which I appreciate, by the way, because I have, like I said, you guys move around. When somebody goes in and out, you change. And so I don't see.
So
Okay.
I think we need to make a motion, but can we not make a motion until we vote on the other motion?
Well, why don't we try it?
Ask them.
What do you want to move?
Well, I think Sally's saying that we need to make a motion to ask them to go gather the information of how we can get paid.
Let me see if I can work us through here a little quicker. So far, we basically have a motion, two motions on, one that we get paid 1/12 of the salary and the other 1/26. There's 26 pay periods. What Cynthia is suggesting is to direct Sally and or Mike to go to the Legislative Service Bureau and say, here's what the commissioners are kind of talking about. What can they do? What direction, what advice should we give them for their consideration? If you would consider that as a friendly substitute, a motion, I think, who made this motion? Cynthia? Did you make the original motion? And Brittany, you made the amendment. Would you consider that a substitute of the motion to have Sally and Mike go to the Legislative Service Bureau and seek clarification on what we can do? Yay or nay?
Yay.
Doug made the original motion.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were, that's something like I couldn't hear.
Okay. So here's where we're at. We're going, I'm going to ask for a motion that Sally and or Mike go to the Legislative Service Bureau, advising them of what we've been talking about, and then having them provide some guidance and bring it back to us so we can then make a decision. I'll entertain that motion from somebody. So moved would be real fine.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign? None opposed. Sally and Mike, I'm assuming that you heard all that and we'll move forward with it.
Absolutely.
You know, we've really been at this for a while. Let's take 5 minutes. I don't have my super timer, so it's about 33. Come back at 22:05.
Oh. Stretch my legs again. Shoulder hurt. Oh.
Juanita, can you hear me? I think Juanita left her mic on. Can you hear it too, Doug?
Yeah, I hear it.
I can hear it too.
Yeah, I just don't want her to say something that she doesn't, that she wants, that she might regret.
Sarah Reinhardt, are you still on?
I am.
In which case, or
yes.
Kathleen Similar? Okay,
I
great.
muted her. It's all.
Thank you, MC. And Doug, Sarah just muted
Oh, awesome.
Juanita.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is everybody back? If you're not back, raise your hand. How'd the bread come out, MC?
Still working on it. It's she's ready. The starter's name is Brunhilde, according to my daughter, and Brunhilde's offspring is rising steadily. So they'll be baked tomorrow.
Okay. We missing anybody? I don't think so.
13 commissioners are present.
All right. We have, it's 4:42 at 5 o'clock. We have an order of the day, what I'll call an order of the day, since these are open meetings and transparent. And public comment will start at 5 o'clock, and we have one speaker, which we will take at 5 o'clock. That brings us to our agenda, which we didn't even come close to getting through. And unless we want to work till 10 or 11 o'clock tonight, I would suggest that we might want to refigure the agenda, have the staff and myself and Brittany work on the next agenda. So I would like at this time to figure out when we would like to meet next. And I'm reading something. Hold on a minute. Okay. I'll read you what I was reading. Should we also decide, careful folks, I can't, should we also decide whether or not we want Michigan Department of State, to come back with a posting for outreach director and RPV consultant, since public hearings and racially polarized voting was something we were advised to regard earlier rather than later. Well, we already decided on coming back with a posting and job description for the executive director. Okay, we'll open that up for discussion. Everybody understand what I just said? 2 other positions to come back with.
Basically coming back with the position, the descriptions of the general positions that we want. Or we're looking
to discuss.
That makes, you might as well, instead of eliminating back and forth.
Doug.
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to add is these appear to be people we're going to hire from the outside. And generally that's done through an RFP process. So maybe we want to ask for a copy of a draft RFP.
Okay.
RFP, for those that don't know, is request for proposal.
Right.
Almost certain we have some of those in our from California in our orientation materials. They may be links, but I'm almost certain we have those.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. Any objection to requesting Mike and Sally to bring those items back with us, to us? Okay. I'm assuming Mike and Sally heard that.
I did, but I want to make sure that we have note of everything that you all just requested, so that we can be sure that we come back thoroughly. So I heard request for proposal. I heard outreach director, racially polarized voting consultant, and
ED.
What else? And of course, an executive director, which was mentioned earlier. Anything else, Mike? And commissioners, is there any other posting or draft description that you'd like us to come back with so you can react to it?
I think legal.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The recommendation that I've read is an in-house counsel and a law firm. So the law firm would be under an RFP. In-house would be obviously a posting.
Correct.
Is that your understanding, Mike?
It is.
Okay. Well, I would think that we would want then those 2 in addition, unless somebody has an objection. Okay. Meeting dates.
Oh, and
yeah.
Forgive me, Steve. Just for the record, it's kind of a clarification. Though you say, Mike and Sally, and of course, that's all fine and good, because Sally and Sarah and I will certainly be taking the lead, continue to take the lead on this project. For the record, I plan on, having it in the minutes reflect Department of State staff, which is, so just want to flag that in the open meeting so everyone else,
sure,
is aware that that's how I'm interpreting that. So.
Correct. I didn't want to be rude to you.
Oh no, I understand.
We call you staff. You have a name. Okay. Meeting dates. How's everybody? I mean, some of you guys work. I can't believe it.
I don't want to talk about it.
What I guess those of you who actually have a job that you have to either stay home for or go to, give us some idea of what we got to work around for you.
So I'm going to start. I'm pretty much open. I've been working closely with HR, and they are more than willing to bring me down to either part-time or give me some sort of leave for the next year if I need to take it. So I just need to have something concrete presented to them saying these are when we're going to meet. This is how often we could possibly meet. And if it gets to a certain level where it's so high, then they'll be willing to most likely give me leave away and then secure my job for when this is all over.
Okay, Rhonda.
Okay, I'm self-employed, so I'm pretty well open. I can adjust my schedule to fit other than some dates that are already set. So for the most part, I would say any time for me will work.
Now you're selling real estate in Reed City?
Yes,
Well, you've probably sold every house in Reed City that's up for sale, haven't you?
I think right now it's close to it. It's a busy market right now.
Who else? Brittany.
Yeah. So sometimes I have to attend court hearings and do victim accompaniment, as well as facilitate online learning for my kiddos, meaning the kids that I work with, because I don't have any children yet. My job when I'm working for someone else is flexible, but I think if it became a situation where it became like a considerable amount of my days being taken away, I would have to discuss other options with them. But yeah, so I'm flexible kind of, and it's unfair to me to say, oh, my weekends are open, because I know those are sacred for so many of us. So yeah, my demands are high in terms of my work, but there is flexibility, if that makes sense, kind of like what Dustin was discussing.
Dr. Anthony, I'd like to hear from you.
Well, it's still student doctor now. Give me about 2 years and we'll be there. Luckily, well, this actually is terribly, not luckily, but because of the coronavirus outbreak, the whole medical education system is really an unknown right now. So that gives me an opportunity to take some time off from that while I participate in this commission. So I'm pretty flexible. I do think we should have a consistent meeting date if possible. Whether we decide that's bi-weekly or weekly, we can talk about that.
Okay.
So,
yeah, Cynthia.
So in our binder that we received, there are some proposed weekly or bi-weekly schedules. It just kind of says week of September 28th for different webinars and things. Are we going to do that as well as have meetings where we are figuring out things amongst ourselves?
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify.
Sure. I guess my thought process was to set some meeting date next week. And Aaron, you have your hand up?
My only thing was considering it has to be a public announcement. What kind of time frame does MDOS need to make that public announcement that we would be meeting again in the near future?
Mike.
What a great question. So I think, so for the Open Meetings Act, I believe, let me see, so the relevant section here is NCL 15.265. Don't worry about writing that down, just pulling it up. It asks that, it says a meeting of a public body shall not be held unless notice is given, and that says for regular meetings of a public body, there shall be posted within 10 days after the first meeting of the public body in each calendar or fiscal year, a public notice stating the dates, times, and places of its regular meetings. So these, to be clear, because I'm not going to read you the whole act, can be changed later on. But for some public bodies, you might say, well, we're going to meet on the, every other Friday. We're going to meet on the, second Friday of the month. We're going to, various ways this is organized in different places, as you undoubtedly have experienced yourself. It also allows for individual special meetings to be called, and those special meetings require, under normal circumstances, 18 hours of notice. And so, if there's kind of emergency, or it doesn't actually have to be an emergency, but 18 hours public notice allows for a special meeting to occur. I would say as a practical matter, while I appreciate the, well, no, I don't want to talk you out of a meeting next week, but I do want to temper expectations just a little bit that we are thrilled to assist in the things you've asked us to assist with, but it's going to take a moment to actually connect with, for example, the Legislative Council. And so even if this meeting were, a full week from now, I just don't know yet whether I'm going to have an answer on all these things from the Legislative Council. That said, I think it's abundantly clear you all have plenty of work to do. And so as soon as we're ready, as soon as we've, some of the things I think we'd probably be able to turn around, like a job description, for example, in fairly short order. Other things like the payroll may or may not. I just have to work through, reach out to people in the Legislative Council and kind of work through some of those things. So again, your question was about timing, and 18 hours is the minimum standard that or the minimum amount of time that public notice has to be posted. And to the degree possible that you're able to come up with, just some proposed regular schedule, quote unquote, regular scheduled meeting, that certainly is what the Open Meetings Act would anticipate. For most public bodies, that's going to work. The caveat, or not the caveat, the challenge here, frankly, is that, and I don't know if California commissioners really had a chance to get into this yesterday, but in the prior meetings that we had with them over the last year and a half, they made clear that it was really, kind of ebb and flow to the work. There's a lot of work up front, getting the team built, getting payroll on, doing all these things, doing our RFP and interviewing legal counsel and all of that. And then at some point, I don't know if the work ever fully, went away, but there was definitely, some weeks where it was slower and other weeks where it was, very, very involved, very intense. And so that's, I think, just perhaps that, one of the challenges that I see for the Open Meetings Act and what regular meetings might mean.
Mike, if I'm remembering correctly, and I probably aren't because until this commission, I wasn't that involved with open meetings, but an adjourned meeting, if we were to adjourn this meeting, we would have to provide notice within X number of time as to the next date that it's adjourned to. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, that I believe is referenced. Forgive me, I'm just looking over at the statute here. I think it uses the word recess. It says subsection 5, a meeting of the public body that is recessed for more than 36 hours shall be reconvened only after public notice that is equivalent to the notice required under subsection 4. Okay. So, yeah, so if it's more than 36 hours, then you've got to renotice the meeting. Right. And again, to do a special meeting would be 18 hours. So under any event, if you want to meet next week, we can set that up for you. And I'm not trying to talk you out of that at all. And we'll get as much as we can ready for you for that.
Okay, Ed.
Yeah, Steve, I just wanted to mention next week, I would not be able to attend next week, but given obviously a regular schedule, I can build that in.
All right. Anybody else that, I'm not, go ahead, Doug.
Yeah, I would suggest that, as it was already mentioned, on page 12, there's some agenda proposals set up by the state with some webinars. Maybe we take one day a week to meet and go through those, and then another day to go through the other business that we need to independently.
Okay. So I think, I don't want to meet certainly without Ed. So we're looking not at next week, but the week after, which is the week of the 28th through the 2nd. I'm just going to pick a day, the 30th, October 30th. Does that work for everybody?
You mean September?
September?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yes, September. I went to October, but that is September.
And what time?
9 o'clock.
Did I
9 to 5.
Did I hear correctly? Like scheduling 2 meetings a week at this point in time, from Doug, or no?
Well, no, I just threw that out as an idea.
Oh, okay.
Steve, I apologize. September 30th is not a good day for me. That's a Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that I've obligated to that I can't get out of.
How about Thursday,
Thursday is good.
October 1st? Okay, not hearing any objections. October 1st, 9 to 5-ish, and we'll work on the agenda.
I'm so sorry, Steve. Yeah,
Yep.
so we're trying to do regular meetings, right? If we could avoid Wednesdays and Thursdays for my weekly schedule, that'd be fantastic. Mondays and Tuesdays are ideal for me.
Okay.
If it's possible for others.
I'm good with Monday or Tuesday of that week. Rhonda?
I'm seeing Brittany's face. So I know what you're saying about set. Yes, let's have a set amount for the weeks that we're going to do it, maybe 1 or 2 meetings a week, but have them on different days to try and accommodate everybody. So even if 1 or 2 commissioners can't be there, at least they're not going to miss everyone. If somebody has a schedule where Mondays and Tuesdays are just crazy at their work, then we don't have to take the chance of the same commissioners missing the same meetings over and over. I think trying to be fair to everybody.
Well, that raises an excellent point. There are 13 people, and some of you all work, and I don't know what we're going to do. It's the same with any group. You oftentimes can't get everybody together all on the same day at the same time. So I guess we're at looking at September 28th or 29th of that week. Either one of those days work for anybody, or don't work, does not work?
Sally has something.
Steve, can I just briefly offer, if I can just briefly offer, if you all set your next meeting date and ask that the Department of State helps you convene it, and Mike, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on this, but we could ask for all of your sort of longer term availability and report back to all of you in that meeting in order to establish a more regular meeting, if that would be helpful for all of you.
Wouldn't hurt. Mike?
Yeah, I was going to speak to that, and also we're certainly be happy to assist in that way. If the next meeting you're looking at the week of the 28th, and I think I heard you say the week of the 28th to 29th, I wasn't going to speak up, but the one thing, just as a practical matter of staffing it, is that so there's an election coming up, and Sally, one of the other responsibilities of the Department of State, of course, is working on an election. So aside from, of course, title registration and vehicles and the like. So we, leading up to the election, Mondays are just very full days with the Bureau of Election and with, working with clerks in the AG's office and just all the different things to make sure that everything is lining up the way that it needs to be. So at least until after November 3rd, that's one practical matter that I'd ask if, Sally and I would be limited in our ability to fully support you, and the rest of the team fully support you on Mondays.
Okay.
How about that Friday?
That's just what I was going to say. How about we try Friday? That would be October the 2nd.
That works for me.
So we're not going to go next Friday?
No. We wanted to give the secretary's staff time to accumulate the information.
I was thinking maybe we would want to continue the discussion in case there's things we've missed and so forth.
But we've definitely missed. We didn't get through this agenda. I'll tell you that, right?
No, we didn't. No, we need to find time. I would almost suggest every Thursday and Friday we do this until we get our hands around it.
I would agree, because I need to get something to my I need to get something to my employer sooner rather than later in regards to if I need to either quit, which I don't want to do, move part-time, or work with HR to get me leave so that I can have my full attention here.
And I can move my Wednesdays. What I'm hearing is that I think I could be flexible, and the 30th, if that's preferable to the second, I think I can make that work. And I like the idea of doing it weekly, having a weekly. Yeah. So what I mean is Wednesdays, I'm going to try to say are on the table.
Well, Wednesday doesn't work this next week because Ed's not going to be here.
No, sorry, I'm speaking of 30th and going forward.
Well, it didn't sound like anyone had a problem with Fridays. If we want to do one every Friday, we could do that too.
Yep.
Want to try to meet next Friday? Mike and Sally, does that work for you two, or whoever you send?
Yes, we can make that work.
Yeah, I think we can make that work.
Everybody else?
I can make that work.
Rhonda, hands up.
I just have one quick question. There is one Friday that I have a morning commitment. It's possible to join the meeting late, correct?
Yes.
No issues with doing that?
Well, we haven't set Friday as the day every week. We're just working on next week right now.
Oh, then yeah, I'm good for next week.
Now that may end up being it, but we're just trying to get through 1 week. All right, next Friday.
Now, Steve, I can't be in next week, but if that's okay, I can catch up. Next week, the week after this week.
Video will be online.
Yeah, my problem is I'm going through an audit at work, so my attention will be pretty much tied up for Thursday and Friday of next week.
The 25th, right? 24th and 25th?
Correct.
Okay. I like to use dates, sorry.
All right. I'll leave it to the group. We have an issue that's going to be an issue probably every meeting. One of us can't be there. Obviously, it'll be on YouTube and Facebook. Is what we did. Give you something to do on the weekend, Ed.
Right.
So are we good understanding that Ed is not going to be available most likely, and we'll do October 2nd starting at 9 o'clock and running till 5. Good to go? All right, October 2nd.
Well, I thought it was the 25th.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought we were doing next week.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Yes.
25th, September 25. 25, 9 o'clock, 9 to 5. We're at the order of the day for comment. Sally, would you do the honors and get us going with our public comment person, please?
Yes, thank you. Before we do, I just want to verify, and apologies. We're all learning on the fly here. Do we need to? You don't have. Okay, good. I was just waiting for confirmation from Mike that you all didn't need to formally vote in order to schedule a meeting. So you are all set on that front. And acting chair, if you'd like to read the introduction for. Sorry, Mike, are you good?
Yeah, my note was that it wasn't clear to me that they had actually. I don't know that they need to vote to schedule the meeting, but to have us, do all the things on their behalf.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's what we want. You got it.
I move that we meet next Friday, September 25th at 9 a.m. and that we have the Secretary of State, or I don't know to call you guys, the MDOS, support that meeting and advertise that meeting.
Second.
Thank you, Cynthia.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Meeting will be September 25th at 9 o'clock. beginning at 9 o'clock.
And any end time?
Standard time, 9 to 5.
9 to 5, okay.
Okay. I apologize, Sally. I hope you have the intro on the public comment because mine did not print off in its entirety and I don't have it.
I do indeed. Would you like me to read it out?
Please. Save
you,
me.
Acting
Save
Chair.
me.
Thank you, Acting Chair. We will now open the floor to public comment for members of the public who signed up to participate in today's section. For those of you who just joined us, a few reminders about public comment for this two-day session, I should say. Because this is a virtual meeting, members of the public had to sign up in advance to address the commission. Staff from the Department of State, myself, will unmute each member of the public for up to 90 seconds on a first come, first serve basis. We have one person who has signed up in advance this afternoon to address the commission. To the members of the public participating in public comment, please note that you will have no more than 90 seconds to address the commission this afternoon. And to any member of the public who's watching, you can submit your thoughts to the commission by emailing our office, redistricting@michigan.gov, if you did not participate in live public comment, but have a comment you'd like to make to the commission. So I will call on the public comment participant and make sure that you know that you are unmuted, and then you'll have 90 seconds to address the commission. So our first public comment participant is Bob Dindoffer. I apologize if I mispronounced your name. Please feel free to correct me in your comments and allow us a moment for the staff to unmute you. You should now be unmuted and you will be able to address the commission.
Thanks, Sally, and thanks to the commission. It's been a pleasure seeing you guys work a little bit. I might be the only nerd who's watching the whole thing, although I hope not. My comment was, and I did email a couple of you with it, and I know I have 90 seconds. So the challenge I see based on the law is that a purely centralized committee staff could lead to a lack of commissioner autonomy and kind of an echo chamber effect. Most legislative bodies address this by giving each of their members a staff member, like an attorney or a trusted advisor, a chief of staff, what have you, that would allow you to bounce ideas off of someone in your own privileged way, either under legislative privilege or under attorney-client privilege. This is particularly important given the structure of the constitutional amendments, because you are prohibited from seeking advice from members of the general public except in writing or at a noticed meeting. Taken to its logical extreme, this means maybe you can't even talk to your spouse about committee business. Now, that would be, left interpretation in the courts, but what I'm saying is if you want to have a trusted advisor and you want to be autonomous and avoid an echo chamber effect, please consider voting to approve a slate of staff members that you would each pick for yourselves. And I could provide more information if the commission is interested on this concept. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. That concludes our public comment this afternoon.
Assuming that Mr. Dindoffer is continuing to observe us on whatever he is observing us on, I will acknowledge that I did receive today an email from him basically with the same comments that he just gave us, and I will forward those to I guess I'll forward them to Sally for inclusion in our written comments that we receive, and that we have obviously received his oral comments, and whatever consideration we give to it will be whatever we give to it. We will not reply on that basis to it specifically. Having said that, we have assumed our next day date, and that is done unless there is something burning to bring. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I do have a point of order to correct the record.
Sure. Point of order, go ahead.
Steve Lett is no longer acting chair. He is now the chair.
I was hoping that you guys might have missed that so I could skate out if things got a little too hot. All right.
Maybe the last thing is, how should we just submit ideas for like sending thank you notes, like little things that we didn't get today?
Excuse me.
Address that to the agenda for next time.
Sure. Yeah. You can. Yeah, we can do that.
And commissioners, and I'm sure Mike's about to hop in and make the same point. I'm happy to take a few minutes to write down agenda items you'd like to cover in the next time. You can also email that to our staff, and we'll build the agenda in a way so that if there's something that's not listed, you have the opportunity to bring it up on the agenda.
Okay, I got it. Following up on that with Mike on building the agenda, you guys have given it to us. Okay, so you're not on the commission. Can I and whoever else has agenda items send them? Can we work up the agenda with you and Sally?
I think you can. I don't think that falls within the constitutional prohibition on discussing redistricting.
I agree. We're not making a decision. We're setting the agenda. All right.
Real quick.
Again, it's not.
Go ahead, Mike.
Sorry, forgive me. Just it's not about the decision. It's about the deliberation. It's a big thing with the Open Meetings Act, and in turn with the constitutional language. So you guys did make decisions today, but any of the discussion about redistricting is subject to it. But in any event,
okay.
I want to flag that.
Anthony.
Thing real quick. If you guys would like to privately message me your phone number so I can create a group chat that we can use purely for social reasons. I hope to get to know the 12 of you a lot more. And I think the better we know each other, the more successful we will be in our mission. So you can message me here in the Zoom private little chat here at the bottom right.
Okay.
So that's
I'm not ignoring you, Rhonda. Go ahead. I think Mike's just dying to make a comment, but I'm going to take Rhonda first.
I just have one quick question about the agenda. Will we get a copy of the agenda prior to meetings so we can kind of prepare for that too?
Yeah.
Okay. Absolutely.
Okay, Mike.
I'm sorry. The only thing I wanted to point to Anthony is that before anybody puts their personal cell phone information in there, again, you're acting on a government. This is a public space, and so if there's any way, and I don't know Zoom well enough, but if there's any way that that's actually preserved, then it's preserved, and that's a public record. So this is, again, welcome to the public sector. I just wanted to kind of speak out and flag this for you. That's why I spoke up in the way that I did. And forgive me, Rhonda and Steve and the rest of the commission. I certainly wouldn't want to step on anyone's toes, but I did want to make sure you're sensitive to, what I'm saying now will live for at least 10 years because that's the record retention of this document, and the document being not just the transcription, but the actual video of watching me and each of you. So just wanted to flag that for you.
I think that to be safe for everybody, assume that anything you see or hear or say on Zoom in any form, chat, shared screen, whatever, is recorded, and it would be discoverable. So just, operate that way. Doug. You got to take your.
I got it down, dude. Hey, one of the items, we talked about email addresses and so forth today.
Right.
Can we get mobile phones as a discussion on the next agenda from the state? Mobile phones out of the states, because because text messages are discoverable as well.
Yeah. And I think Sally was going to get us everybody's email now.
Okay.
Right, Sally? You're going to send us a list of emails for everybody.
If you all would like, I can share your personal emails. Yes.
You can
With each
have
other.
mine.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Then we'll get you something, Anthony.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn until next Friday at 9 a.m.
Second.
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 All in opposed, say I'll wait here until next Friday. Not
I
hearing
got
that.
nothing better
We're
to
all
do.
done. Thank you, people. We while we didn't get through everything, we got through a lot. Everybody have a great weekend. Goodbye.
Goodbye,
You too.
everybody.
Thank you.